I sent the photo to Chloe, my so-called best friend, the one who'd mastered the art of saccharine sweetness while sharpening knives behind her back. My accompanying message was pure acid. You can finally stop spreading rumors about me stealing your ex. This time, your boyfriend is genuinely mine. Inside the dimly lit hotel suite, I'd adjusted the lamps to their lowest setting, casting everything in a deep, suggestive orange glow that practically dripped with decadent ambiguity. The air conditioning hummed softly, a counterpoint to the silence. Liam Xiao lay sprawled on the vast expanse of the crisp white king-sized bed. His shirt was slightly open, revealing the elegant line of his chiseled collarbone. His brow was furrowed just slightly, his eyes tightly shut, projecting an aura of cool detachment and unconscious allure that was almost unfairly tempting. Even asleep, he looked like a sculpture carved from ice and moonlight. Hesitantly at first, then with growing boldness, I eased myself onto the mattress beside him. Phone in hand, I began snapping pictures, experimenting with angles. One where I snuggled into his chest, looking possessively up at his sleeping face. Another where I leaned over him, my hair falling around his shoulder, feigning a dominant pose. But none of them quite captured the scandalous intimacy I was aiming for. They looked staged, forced. And I, Stella fan, never settle for mediocrity, especially not when it comes to revenge. Defeat isn't in my vocabulary, and neither is half-hearted effort. A quick, slightly embarrassing search online under provocative couple photos yielded a gallery that made my cheeks burn. Right. Time to up the ante. Putting the phone down, I retrieved my reddest lipstick from my purse. My lips were already painted a vivid crimson, but I meticulously applied another layer, deepening the shade to a near blood red. Then, following the online tutorials with the concentration of a bomb disposal expert, I carefully, deliberately, pressed my lips against Liam's skin. A perfect imprint blossomed on his collarbone, another near the pulse point on his throat, and a final, lingering one just beside the corner of his mouth. Even while committing this act of photographic sabotage, a stray thought surfaced. His skin was incredibly smooth, almost silky beneath my touch. He looked so peaceful, albeit tired, while I, with my naturally sultry features, looked like the cat who'd not only gotten the cream but owned the entire dairy. The contrast was striking. His serene exhaustion against my deliberate seduction. It created a visual narrative far more potent than any online example. This effect, I had to admit, was even better than the professional shots I just scrolled through. I selected the most damning photo, the one where the lipstick marks were prominent, my expression possessive yet soft, his face turned slightly towards mine in oblivious sleep. I found Chloe's contact and hit send, attaching the previously composed message like a final twist of the knife. You can finally stop spreading rumors about me stealing your ex. This time, your boyfriend is genuinely mine. Funny, wasn't it? Seducing someone else's boyfriend seemed, in theory, straightforward. Faking it convincingly, however, that was proving to be exhausting work. My name is Stella Fan, blessed with fair skin, striking features, legs that go on for miles, and let's be honest, an enviable figure. Ever since my body decided to bloom, whispers and rumors have followed me like a persistent shadow. Stella Fan with that face? She's probably slept with half the city. Not just men, I heard she swings both ways. Someone saw her getting out of a luxury car downtown. Definitely kept by some rich old businessman. Initially, hearing these things stung. I'd argue, defend myself, try to set the record straight. But eventually the sheer volume wore me down. Numbness set in. Fine, let them talk. The irony? Here I was 25 years old, and despite the wild tales, my romantic history was embarrassingly tame. A proper relationship? Never had. One. It wasn't for lack of suitors, but the men who approached me always seemed to be on a hunt, viewing me as a trophy rather than a person. Hands would wander too quickly on first dates. Suggestions of hotel rooms would surface before we even knew each other's favorite color. Though my exterior might scream femme fatale, my inner self was surprisingly reserved. To date, the furthest I'd gone was holding hands with my one and only short-lived ex-boyfriend. Sometimes I'd stare at my reflection and sigh dramatically. Was this face, this body, destined to repel any man capable of appreciating what was underneath the surface? Enough melodrama. Back to the present situation. The feud with Chloe started 3 months ago. We were both second-year graduate students at N University's prestigious Media Studies program, and we'd coincidentally landed internships at the same television station. What began as a casual classmate connection naturally deepened into a colleague-based friendship, or so I thought. That's how I met her then-boyfriend, Kevin Peng. Years of navigating unwanted advances had honed my instincts. One look at Kevin, and my internal scumbag detector went off loud and clear. He oozed insincerity. Sure enough, a couple of accidental lingering smiles from me during group lunches were enough to snag his attention. It culminated one evening when he cornered me outside the station, pressing a hotel room key card into my hand with a lewd wink. Standing there in the chilly evening air, clutching the plastic card, I had a moment of profound existential questioning. Was I really the kind of woman who just received unsolicited room keys? Sigh. My reputation was one thing, but a friend's happiness? That felt more important. Chloe always projected such a naive, sweet demeanor. She seemed utterly clueless about the world's darker corners. She was definitely being duped by this predator. I had to intervene, perform a rescue mission. I gave the keycard straight to Chloe. Your boyfriend tried to get me into a hotel room, I stated plainly. My advice? Dump him. Fast. I can still picture the look on her face, pure shock, her eyes instantly welling up with tears of disbelief and hurt. I know this is hard to hear, I added gently, but better a sharp pain now than prolonged misery. I gave a sympathetic wave and walked away, feeling rather noble, leaving behind what I imagined was a figure of quiet integrity. The outcome, however, was something I hadn't anticipated in the slightest. Chloe confronted Kevin at the hotel. He'd apparently gone anyway, hoping I'd change my mind. Instead of confessing, he turned the tables magnificently. He claimed I had been the one pursuing him, sending suggestive signals, practically throwing myself at him. The room key, he explained tearfully to Chloe, was part of his misguided attempt to gently counsel me, to steer me away from such improper behavior because I was Chloe's friend, and he didn't want to cause a scene. Chloe, tears streaming down her face, pointed an accusing finger at me later. Stella fan. I never knew you could be such a despicable, scheming bitch. I was speechless, utterly blindsided and unable to defend myself against such a preposterous lie. Initially, I thought Chloe was just temporarily blinded, easily manipulated by Kevin. I figured she'd see the truth eventually, but I underestimated her capacity for malice. From that day on, the gossip about me, previously confined mostly to campus, exploded within the TV station. All the old rumors resurfaced, amplified, and now circulated freely among our colleagues. And since Chloe and I were the only interns from our program there, it wasn't hard to guess the source. A poisonous new addition joined the repertoire. Stella fan, the homewrecker who tried to steal her best friend's boyfriend. The way my colleagues looked at me shifted subtly but significantly. The women, a mixture of pity and confirmation. So, you really are that kind of girl. The men, a glint of predatory interest. So, you really are that kind of girl. And Chloe? She barely hid her triumphant smirk whenever our paths crossed. Her eyes screamed, see? You always were this kind of girl. That incident was a harsh wake-up call. They were perfect for each other. A manipulative liar and a spineless cheat. A match made in, well, somewhere unpleasant. My attempt at kindness had backfired spectacularly, leaving me covered in metaphorical mud. I'd grown up amidst whispers and sideways glances. If Chloe hadn't crossed a fundamental line, I might have just endured it, retreated into my usual silence. But then came the incident with my dad. One Sunday evening he dropped me off at my dorm. Before I got out, he handed me a small, elegantly wrapped box from LV. It was an early birthday present. Delighted, I leaned in and gave my old man an affectionate peck on his balding forehead. Just then Chloe happened to walk past. Her eyes lingered on the seen me, the luxury brand box, my dad's slightly stout figure. In his comfortable weekend clothes, her expression was unreadable. A strange mix of curiosity and something else. Calculation? That night, the university online forum blew up. Headline: confirmed. Media studies Stella fan caught with sugar daddy. Photos don't lie. The accompanying pictures were blurry, taken from a distance in the dim evening light. My dad's indistinct, middle-aged silhouette next to my own more slender figure. The LV box clearly visible. It certainly painted a suggestive picture if you were looking for one. It was almost laughable if it wasn't so damaging. The next day, my supervising producer at the TV station called me into her office. Stella, she began awkwardly, shifting papers on her desk. Young people should strive for self-reliance, you know? Don't always look for shortcuts. Value yourself. You have talent, good potential. There's no need to demean yourself like this. I stared at her, completely bewildered. She hesitantly slid her phone across the desk. Displayed on the screen was the forum post about my alleged sugar daddy. Were station managers now policing interns' campus lives? It didn't take a genius to figure out who had forwarded this delightful piece of slander. That conversation effectively killed any chance I had of securing a permanent position at the station after graduation. My fists clenched. All right, Chloe. You want to play dirty? Fine. Game on. You've shown no mercy, so expect none from me. People say trash finds its own level, and birds of a feather flock together. But surprisingly, Chloe and Kevin broke up about a month later. According to office gossip, whenever Chloe recounted the heartbreak, she'd tearfully imply that the hotel incident had created an irreparable rift between them. The subtext was clear. Their breakup was all Stella Fan's fault. Oh hell no. I wasn't taking the blame for the implosion of that toxic relationship. Since I couldn't stop the rumors, maybe it was time to make at least part of them come true. Not long after ditching Kevin, Chloe snagged a new beau, Liam Shao. Now Liam Shao was a name I knew. Heir to the massive Lu Corporation, a figure of quiet influence in N-City's elite circles. He was known as a breath of fresh air. Incredibly handsome, impeccable family background, highly educated. With years spent studying abroad before returning last year to take over the family business. The whispers painted him as aloof, a man who avoided nightclubs and casual flings, cool and distant to the point of being unapproachable. An unattainable flower on a high mountain, they called him. Somehow this unattainable flower had been plucked by Chloe. Clearly, his judgment wasn't as sharp as his cheekbones. If I could throw a wrench into their supposed romance, wouldn't that be a public service? One evening, a sleek, expensive car pulled up in front of the women's dormitory. Chloe emerged, looking radiant. Within minutes, the entire dorm was buzzing about Chloe and Liam's fairy tale romance, dripping with envy. I'd only heard Liam's name, never seen him in person. Curiosity piqued. I slipped on my flip-flops and wandered outside for a look. Chloe had already disappeared inside, but Liam hadn't left. He was leaning against the multi-million-dollar car, smoking, bathed in the glow of a nearby street lamp. Tall, with an air of cool indifference, he looked exactly like the legends described, intimidatingly elegant. But who am I? Stella Fan. And I don't back down easily. My flip-flops hardly screamed sophistication, but I casually adjusted the strap of my tank top, squared my shoulders, and sauntered past him with a deliberate sway in my hips. A subtle flick of my hair. A carefully calibrated curve of my lips into a smile that hinted at secrets. If I could have narrated the look I gave him, it would be called 1,000 years in a glance. Infused with emotion, mystery, provocation, and a touch of feigned innocence. To my deflation, Liam merely flickered his eyelids open, gave me a brief, dismissive scan, and seemed ready to look away. Just as I was about to abort the mission, his gaze snagged on something, the small, pink birthmark high on my collarbone. It stayed there for a fraction of a second longer than necessary. I was born with it. A pale pink mark that, as I grew older, seemed to take on the shape of a tiny stylized fox. It only fueled the vixen rumors, really. Many had commented, usually in hushed, suggestive tones, that my birthmark was intriguing, alluring. Could it be? Liam found it intriguing too? This unexpected possibility sent a thrill through me. Hope surged. I started to turn, ready to give him a better view, perhaps offer a coy question about it. But just then, he stubbed out his cigarette, slid back into the driver's seat, and the powerful engine roared to life. The car sped off, leaving me in a cloud of exhaust and confusion. My first foray into battle ended in an embarrassing retreat, providing Chloe with ample ammunition for mockery the next day. Some people, she announced loudly in the intern bullpen, clearly aiming her words at me, have such twisted minds, always scheming to steal other people's boyfriends. But newsflash, not all men fall for cheap, flashy tramps. I simply tossed my hair, refusing to show any weakness. Don't celebrate too soon, darling, I purred back, leaning against a filing cabinet. It's early days yet. Once I've had him in my bed, we'll see just how much he likes flashy tramps like me. Chloe stomped her foot, her face flushing crimson. Victory, however small. Still, that night's failure prompted a strategic rethink. My goal wasn't actually to steal Liam. It was simply to infuriate Chloe, to give her a taste of her own medicine. My previous tactics were too subtle, too drawn out. Time for a more direct approach. Shock and awe. Through my network of less than savory but well-connected friends, I learned Liam's 28th birthday was approaching. His buddies were throwing him a private party at an exclusive hotel. That night, his friends, fueled by celebratory spirits, plied him with alcohol. A thoroughly intoxicated Liam was eventually helped upstairs to a suite reserved for him. And conveniently, this particular hotel belonged to the family of one of my childhood friends. Obtaining a duplicate keycard required minimal effort. After arranging the masterpiece bed photos, I slid carefully off the mattress. Buttoning my blouse, I started muttering under my breath, partly to the unconscious Liam, partly to myself. Look, this isn't really my fault, okay? It's your girlfriend. She's a manipulative witch who keeps trashing my reputation. It's hard enough for me to find a decent guy as it is, and now thanks to her, any respectable man probably thinks I'm poison. My mom's going to be dragging me to matchmaking sessions in a few years, I just know it. And hey, you're not exactly losing out here. I technically gave you my first real kiss. Sort of. Liam stirred slightly, his brow furrowing deeper in discomfort. Hearing my voice, his eyes fluttered open momentarily, hazy and unfocused. My heart leaped into my throat and I froze, clamping my mouth shut. Thankfully, his eyelids drifted closed again almost immediately, and his breathing evened out. He was deeply asleep. Taking a breath, I leaned closer one last time. Chloe's not as simple as she looks, I whispered near his ear. Just be careful. With that final warning, I grabbed my bag and fled the scene like a thief in the night. Ever since sending the photos to Chloe, I'd been bracing myself for the fallout, waiting for her public retaliation. Stella fan faces consequences head-on. I don't shy away from trouble I've stirred up. Rumors swirled through the university and the TV station Stella fan, the shameless seductress who targeted both of Chloe's boyfriends. Annoyingly, there was now a 50% truth ratio to the gossip, which, oddly, felt slightly more bearable than the complete fabrications. At least this scandal had some basis, however contrived, in reality. Surprisingly, though, Chloe didn't confront me directly. She maintained a veneer of wounded dignity, which I found unexpected. I also gradually learned more about Liam's current status. As the young heir apparent to Lu Corporation, he was N-City's most eligible bachelor, constantly in the spotlight. Our TV station, recognizing his importance, had assigned a dedicated team to produce a feature on him and his company's future. That was how Chloe had initially managed to get close to him, through official interviews. Because the station was currently collaborating closely with Lu Corporation on several promotional projects, Liam's company had extended a few invitations to their upcoming anniversary gala. My department wasn't involved in the Lu Corp feature, so naturally I wasn't on the invite list. Chloe made sure to shoot me a smug, pitying look when the invitations were distributed. Did she really think a little piece of engraved cardstock could stop me? Please. My network of friends came through once again. So when I swept into the glittering gala ballroom looking like $1 million, borrowed mostly, Chloe's jaw practically hit the floor. I sauntered over, deliberately adjusting the neckline of her modest, pale dress downwards slightly. Still playing the innocent maiden, Chloe? I murmured sweetly. Trust me, darling. Experience has proven no man is immune to a little flashy tramp. She slapped my hand away, her eyes blazing with fury. Oh, the satisfaction was exquisite. However, some elements of the evening were beyond my control, namely running into my own father. There he was, holding a champagne flute, chatting amiably with Liam Xiao and Liam's father, looking completely at ease, clearly a respected guest. Since when were the fans and the Xiaos so chummy? A quick glance down at my own attire, strategically placed panels of fabric that covered the essentials but left little to the imagination, convinced me that a low profile was essential. Getting caught by Dad looking like this was not on the agenda. Consequently, I spent most of the evening lurking in corners, sampling canapes and sipping sparkling water, trying my best to be invisible. But then I saw Chloe subtly lead Liam out onto a secluded balcony overlooking the city lights. My carefully suppressed troublemaking instincts, dormant all evening, roared back to life. Ooh, could this be a scene of clandestine passion? They stepped onto the terrace. Cloaked by the shadows of a large potted palm, I crept closer, hoping to eavesdrop. Damn it. Liam slid the glass door shut behind them, muffling their conversation. Frustrated, I tried to edge nearer, peering through the glass, when a pair of gleaming black leather shoes appeared directly in my line of sight. Startled, I straightened up, smoothing my dress, and pasted on a charming smile. "Liam," I greeted, trying to sound casual. "Fancy meeting you here." Liam raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Eavesdropping, Stella?" No, absolutely not." I waved my hands dismissively, perhaps a little too vehemently. "Just passing by. Enjoying the fresh air." He didn't reply immediately, just watched me, his dark eyes unnervingly perceptive, as if he could see right through my flimsy excuse. His gaze lingered again on the birthmark near my collarbone for a fleeting moment. Instinctively, I threw my shoulders back slightly, accentuating my curves, and offered a deliberately provocative smile. "Where's your girlfriend, Liam? Did you leave poor Chloe all alone on the balcony?" His brow furrowed, his eyes narrowing slightly. Then, unexpectedly, he leaned down slightly, bringing his face closer to mine. His voice a low, dangerous murmur. "I have a girlfriend. And you're still trying to seduce me?" A wicked grin spread across my face. I leaned in conspiratorially. "The question is, Liam," I whispered back, meeting his intense gaze, "have you let yourself be seduced?" He clearly hadn't expected such directness. He blinked, momentarily stunned. A faint pink tinge crept up his neck and touched his ears. Then, looking distinctly flustered, he muttered, "Ridiculous," and abruptly turned, striding back towards the ballroom almost as if fleeing. Watching his retreating back, I covered my mouth to stifle a giggle. Score one for Stella. But my victories were short-lived. I'd miscalculated. Just as I was savoring my small triumph, mentally replaying his flustered reaction, and preparing to make a graceful exit after winking at a couple of admiring men across the room, a booming voice cut through the ambient chatter. "Stella! Fan!" My shoulders jumped. Oh no. Forcing my features into a mask of filial piety, I turned with a bright, innocent smile. "Dad! Fancy seeing you here too. What a surprise!" My father strode towards me, his expression thunderous. "Never home, are you? What on earth are you doing here dressed like that?" "The station has an interview assignment." I lied smoothly, gesturing vaguely. "An interview? Dressed like a nightclub hostess? If your mother saw you, she'd skin you alive." "Like what exactly?" Everything important was covered. The neckline was just a bit low front and back. I pouted internally but knew better than to argue with Dad when he was in this mood. He promptly shrugged off his suit jacket and proceeded to wrap it around me like a thick, woolen burrito, tugging the lapels forcefully together as if trying to conceal every inch of skin below my chin. "Dad, I can do it myself," I protested, trying to rearrange the oversized jacket into something less ridiculous. Being wrapped in a boyfriend's jacket could be romantic. Being swaddled in your father's jacket felt like being publicly shamed. "I was going to introduce you to Liam Shao," Dad grumbled, still adjusting the jacket. "He's a fine young man, truly outstanding, but look at you. Forget it. We're not embarrassing ourselves further. Let's go home. Now." He took my arm firmly and began steering me towards the exit. As we walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that a pair of amused, mocking eyes were watching my undignified departure. I risked a glance back towards where I'd last seen Liam. He was engaged in conversation, laughing politely at something someone said, giving no indication he'd even noticed my humiliating exit. Just my imagination then. I shrank further into the jacket, letting Dad hustle me away. So embarrassing. Please let Liam and Chloe not have seen that. In the car, Dad launched into his familiar lecture. "Stella," he began, his voice softer now, laced with concern. "I know I don't always understand your generation, but shouldn't a young woman aim for elegance? Decorum? I used to argue with your mother when she said you needed to find a boyfriend, settle down. But now? I'm completely on her side. Tell me, what are you looking for in a partner? I know plenty of people, I can help arrange something." "No way. I don't need your help. I already like someone," I retorted, pouting. "You do? Who is he? What kind of young man? Is he decent? What's his family like?" Dad's interest was instantly piqued. "You wouldn't know him." "How can I know him if you don't tell me?" I unlocked my phone and pulled up my screensaver. "Here, look. Isn't he gorgeous?" Dad took the phone, peering intently at the screen. It was a picture of Ethan Kai, the latest idol sensation I was currently obsessed with. The photo was artfully gritty. Ethan had pulled his white t-shirt up, biting the fabric, revealing carefully applied fake blood and bandages around his waist from a recent action drama role. His hair was damp, styled to look like post-fight sweat, and his eyes held a carefully crafted, fierce yet vulnerable look, amplified by his naturally innocent features. It was designed to make fans swoon. Dad was silent for a moment. "He's handsome," he conceded cautiously. "But is he injured? Fighting? Young people shouldn't be so violent." I snatched my phone back. "I like him just the way he is." "Well, perhaps you could bring him home to meet your mother and me sometime?" Dad suggested tentatively, pursing his lips. "Meet him? Dad, I haven't even met him myself. He's a celebrity. Ethan Kai. Super famous right now. Isn't he amazing? Do you have any connections? Can you get me tickets to his concert? Maybe a backstage pass?" "Stella. Fan." Dad exploded. "You are 25 years old. Can you please for once do something sensible? Something that will give your mother and me some peace of mind? We wanted you to study finance, accounting, join the family business. But no, you insisted on media studies. And now, instead of finding a nice young man and building a life, you're chasing after pop stars." "Dayawad," I whined, shaking his arm playfully. "Don't try that cute act on me. It won't work." If Dad had a mustache, it would be bristling with indignation right now. The moment we got home, still draped in Dad's enormous jacket, I made a dash for the stairs to my bedroom sanctuary. From the living room I heard Mom's voice. "Why are you two back together? And why is she wearing your jacket?" Dad collapsed onto the sofa with a heavy sigh. "Sylvia, if you're not too busy lately, please find Stella a suitable boyfriend. A reliable one." Mom's voice immediately jumped an octave, buzzing with newfound energy. "What happened? Tell me everything." "Stella's not getting any younger," Dad lamented. "It's time she started dating seriously. See, I've been saying that for years. You always said she was still young. Okay, leave this to me. I'll handle it. Consider it done." And so downstairs, my mother embarked on a marathon phone call session, dialing up her entire network of friends and acquaintances, enthusiastically inquiring about eligible young bachelors. The buzz of her matchmaking efforts continued late into the night. Truly, the energy of middle-aged women playing Cupid is boundless. The next morning when I came down for breakfast, Sylvia Fan presented me with a meticulously compiled spreadsheet. "Take a look," she said, her eyes gleaming with purpose. "Cross off anyone you definitely don't like. Let's be efficient." I stared at the list, horrified. Usually Dad would intervene, act as my buffer. But this time he just sipped his coffee, pretending to be engrossed in the morning paper. "Sylvia," he said without looking up, "I think you should just make the arrangements. Don't bother consulting her. What does she know about suitable matches?" "You're right," Mom nodded decisively, snatching the spreadsheet back. My only option was escape. I started making excuses to avoid coming home. But Dad countered by assigning his driver, the formidable Uncle Zhang, to stand guard at my dorm. Uncle Zhang, built like a tank with a fiercely bushy beard, would wait downstairs morning and evening booming Stella whenever he saw me and asking everyone who passed, "Has Stella Fan come back yet?" His intimidating presence quickly led to new bizarre rumors about my type. Apparently, I now had a penchant for burly, butcher-like older men. The campus gossip mill churned out ever more outlandish tales. Fine. I surrendered. Thus began my weekend ordeal. Every Saturday or Sunday, Sylvia would personally oversee my transformation into a proper young lady. She'd try everything to tame my naturally upturned eyes, attempting to draw them downwards with makeup. She even threatened to forcibly straighten my signature wavy hair. I resisted that with the ferocity of a cornered badger. Forget about my usual bold makeup choices. Staring at my reflection, clad in something distressingly high-necked and demure, I smirked. "Mom, have you ever heard the phrase, the more you try to hide something, the more obvious it becomes?" Sylvia poked my forehead sharply. "If you looked a bit more conventional, would I have to go to all this trouble? I inherited my looks from you, didn't I?" I retorted cheekily. "Don't get smart with me. Bring home a son-in-law I approve of, then you can talk." "Oh, don't worry, Mom," I began sweetly. "I have absolutely no intention of cooperating. Who am I? Stella Fan, master of adapting my persona to the situation. Tell humans ghost stories. Tell ghosts human stories. If the blind date was a straight-laced, earnest type, I'd lay on the flirtatious act thick, batting my eyelashes, speaking in a breathy, exaggeratedly seductive voice until he practically squirmed with discomfort. If he was a fellow party-loving, spoiled rich kid, I'd bore him to tears with lectures on mutual respect, marital harmony, and the importance of family responsibility, occasionally throwing in obscure historical anecdotes for good measure. As expected, after several weeks of this, Sylvia's brow grew increasingly furrowed with frustration, and I, frankly, was exhausted from the constant mental gymnastics. It felt like I'd lost half my blood supply. Then salvation arrived in the form of news. A major economic forum was scheduled to take place in nearby M-City. I immediately went to my department head, volunteering enthusiastically to cover the event. The director looked hesitant. Stella. The team for M-City has already been finalized. And the budget is really tight right now, we can't afford to send anyone else. Director, I pleaded, putting on my most earnest expression. I heard we're only sending 2 people? That seems insufficient for such a major event. I just want the opportunity to gain more experience, push myself. Look, what if I cover my own airfare and hotel costs? And I don't need the travel allowance either. The director's face lit up. He slammed his hand on the desk. Stella, young people with your drive and dedication are rare these days. Excellent. The other 2 colleagues are already there. Go pack your bags immediately and get going. Yes, sir. The forum was starting the next day. Word from my colleagues already in M-City was that flights were nearly impossible to book, and all reasonably priced hotels were completely full. In the end, I had no choice but to swallow my pride and ask Dad for help with the arrangements. So, under Sylvia's glare of utter exasperation, the "you ungrateful child running away from your responsibilities look," I triumphantly set off for M-City. My joy, however, lasted approximately 3 seconds. As I located my seat in business class, ready to settle in for a much-needed nap, I glanced sideways. The person next to me made my drowsiness vanish instantly. You're going to M-City too? Liam Xiao looked up from his documents, a flicker of surprise in his usually impassive eyes. My brain, operating on its own bizarre frequency, blurted out the first thing that came to mind. Shouldn't you be with your girlfriend, Liam? I heard Chloe flew economy. Liam carefully placed his papers down, turned slightly in his seat, and regarded me with a calm, almost amused expression. You mentioned my girlfriend last time as well. I'm curious, Stella. Who exactly do you believe my girlfriend to be? He was still playing games. He didn't seem like the cheating type, but why deny Chloe when she wasn't around? Oh, please, Liam. Stop acting. Everyone at N University knows you and Chloe are an item. Isn't she your girlfriend? Chloe. He frowned slightly, as if searching his memory. The intern reporter from your station? Why so formal all of a sudden? I challenged. She's not my girlfriend, he stated calmly. We met during the interview process. We're not close. Oh, cut the crap. I saw you dropping her off at the dorm myself. The time you walked past me? A small smile played on his lips. Yes, exactly then, I admitted, feeling my cheeks warm slightly. She had come to my office for an interview that afternoon, he explained patiently. Afterward, I needed to go to N University to meet someone else. It was on the way, so I offered her a ride. I scrutinized his expression. He seemed completely sincere. No hint of deception. Could it be? Chloe was the one lying? Knowing her penchant for manipulation, it was entirely plausible she'd inflate their connection. Maybe even outright claim him as her boyfriend to boost her status. My head started to ache. Wait. Hold on. A memory flashed. At the gala, you 2 snuck off to the balcony for a private chat. The time you were eavesdropping? He asked, that amused glint back in his eyes. Yes, that time. Why did he always have to point out my less than stellar moments? She wanted to schedule our next interview, he clarified. She said the ballroom was too noisy, so we stepped outside onto the balcony. It only took a few minutes. Oh, I was reeling, completely thrown. If they weren't a couple, then all my elaborate scheming, the staged photos, the snide remarks, who was it all for? What was the point? Any other questions? Liam asked, picking up his papers again. No. None, I mumbled, turning away. I'm suddenly in a very bad mood. Please don't talk to me. Liam chuckled softly and returned to his reading. Oh, Stella fan, you arrogant, impulsive fool. What a colossal, embarrassing screw-up. The thought made me cringe. How could I have been so wrong? What cures embarrassment and frustration? Only my beloved Ethan Kai. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through photos of Ethan. Stills from his dramas, magazine shoots, candid fan snaps. Who's that? Liam suddenly leaned over, peering at my screen. My husband. I snapped back irritably. Since he wasn't Chloe's boyfriend, there was no need to waste any more effort on him. He raised an eyebrow. You're married. Soon, I declared vaguely. To this man. Well, I'm certainly not marrying you, am I? Humph, he scoffed dismissively, turning his attention back to his work. I shot him a massive eye roll behind his back. After the plane landed, I stood curbside trying to hail a taxi, my suitcase beside me. City was bustling, and every cab that passed was already occupied. After several frustrating minutes, a sleek black luxury sedan pulled up smoothly beside me. The back window glided down, revealing Liam, looking relaxed in the plush interior. Stella, he called out, a hint of amusement in his voice. Need a lift? How do you know my name? Again, my brain prioritized the weirdest question. I happen to know, he replied enigmatically. Right, of course. We'd practically starred in fake intimate photos together. Naturally, he would have looked me up. Are you getting in? He prompted. Are we going the same way? I asked suspiciously. Yes. How do you know? This man was either psychic or incredibly well-informed. I just happen to know, he repeated, a ghost of a smile touching his lips. The Hilton, right? Yes. Yes. Relief washed over me. I abandoned my suitcase and scrambled into the car's cool, leather-scented interior. The driver efficiently got out and placed my luggage in the trunk. Inside, the overhead light illuminated the cabin. Liam was now focused on a tablet, scrolling through documents. Seriously? Does this man ever relax? What are you looking at? I leaned over curiously. Tomorrow's opening speech, he replied without looking up. You're giving a speech? Aren't you covering this forum? Shouldn't you be more familiar with the schedule than I am? He countered, a teasing note in his voice. I sheepishly rubbed my nose. It was a last-minute assignment. Liam reached over and gently tapped my head a few times with his long, elegant fingers. Young lady, he said, his tone mock serious. Professionalism is key. Whatever. The drive to the hotel took nearly an hour through city traffic. I must have dozed off because I woke with a start to find my head resting comfortably on Liam's shoulder. Mortified, I quickly sat up, wiping my mouth instinctively. Liam was calmly inspecting his pristine white shirt collar. Oh, my manslayer red lipstick had left a distinct, smudged, vaguely heart-shaped stain on the crisp fabric. An awkward, incriminating patch of crimson. Oh my God, I'm so sorry, I stammered, reaching out impulsively to try and rub it off, which only succeeded in smearing it further. I'll buy you a new shirt, I offered, wringing my hands. Is this really about the cost of a shirt, Stella? He asked, his expression unreadable. Or? He tilted his head slightly. Last time, the lipstick marks on my collarbone, were they applied the same way? No, absolutely not, I denied vigorously. Those were drawn on. With lipstick, yes, but drawn. Drawn on. He sounded skeptical, his voice lifting slightly. Yes, drawn. Definitely. I nodded emphatically, perhaps a little too much. There was a pause. Then Liam spoke again, his voice softer. Stella, perhaps you shouldn't lean quite so close to men in the future. His gaze flickered downwards momentarily towards my chest, then quickly back up. His implication wasn't lost on me. Brazenly, I leaned forward slightly, batting my eyelashes. Why? Impressed, I teased, gesturing shamelessly. Ridiculous. Liam's face flushed visibly this time. He abruptly opened his car door and got out, clearly flustered. Grinning, I followed him out of the car, only to stop dead in my tracks. Standing near the hotel entrance, beaming seeing Liam, was Chloe. Her smile instantly froze, then morphed into a look of pure disgust when she saw me emerge from the same car. I thought you said you weren't close? I whispered urgently, nudging Liam's arm. He glanced at Chloe, then back at me, looking genuinely perplexed. Honestly, I'm not sure why she's here. Could she be pursuing me? Oh ho! Chloe was actively chasing Liam? Suddenly, the dormant warrior spirit within me roared back to life. My competitive instincts surged. Absolutely not. I couldn't let Chloe sink her claws into him. Chloe began walking towards us, her expression shifting back to one of sweet anticipation as she neared Liam. Liam, seemingly oblivious or perhaps choosing to ignore her, started walking towards the hotel entrance. The distance between them closed rapidly. Impulsively, I grabbed Liam's sleeve. With my other hand, I reached up and fussed with the collar of his shirt, my fingers deliberately brushing against the skin of his neck, lingering near the pulse point where I'd previously marked him. Liam froze instantly, his body tensing. He turned his head sharply to look down at me, surprise clear in his eyes. I gave him my most dazzling, slightly apologetic smile, my voice dripping with fake embarrassment and intimacy. Oops. Look what you made me do. I purred, gesturing towards the lipstick stain I just noticed. My lipstick is all over you now. You really need to be more careful next time, silly. Liam stared at me, his expression a mixture of disbelief and something else I couldn't quite decipher. Chloe, who had now reached us, looked like she'd swallowed a particularly nasty insect. Her face was a fascinating kaleidoscope of emotions: confusion, fury, jealousy. Mr. Shao. She began hesitantly, her voice small and uncertain. Ignoring her completely, I playfully traced a finger along the shell of Liam's ear, feeling him jolt almost imperceptibly at the contact. Then, I skipped a few steps ahead, turned back, gave him a seductive wink and chirped, "I'll go warm up the room for you, okay? See you upstairs." Before he could utter a single word of protest or denial, I spun around and sashayed into the hotel lobby with exaggerated hip movements, leaving the two of them standing there in stunned silence, my retreating figure offering endless possibilities for speculation. Of course, Liam wouldn't actually come looking for me. Besides, he didn't even know my room number. That evening, safely ensconced in my room, I diligently studied the forum's schedule and program, then video called my colleagues to coordinate our tasks for the next day. Although Chloe was technically part of the team, I had zero intention of speaking to her unless absolutely necessary. The next morning, humming cheerfully, I stepped out of my room and ran smack into Liam emerging from the room directly next door. He lived next to me? Well, fancy meeting you here. I chirped, feeling a ridiculous wave of guilt, as if I'd been caught doing something wrong. Morning, Liam responded coolly, his expression neutral. Heading down for breakfast? Yes. Me too. Let's go together. He didn't explicitly agree, but he didn't object either, so I took it as assent and fell into step beside him. The Hilton's breakfast buffet was impressive, served in an elegant dining room with panoramic city views. Liam seemed preoccupied, silently selecting his food, so I focused on my own plate, content to eat in silence. Suddenly, he pointed towards a large television screen mounted on the wall, playing a morning news program. "Isn't that your husband?" I whipped my head around. It was Ethan Kai. A segment about his upcoming movie release. Clutching my glass of milk, I practically ran to stand directly in front of the screen, a goofy, lovesick grin plastered on my face, utterly absorbed until the segment ended. Reluctantly, I returned to my seat. Liam was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. Amusement? Bemusement? So that's the husband you were talking about? Got a problem with it? I retorted defensively. Are you quite certain he's planning to marry you? He asked dryly. Anything is possible, haven't you heard? I shot back. I just find it interesting, Liam mused, sipping his coffee. A woman your age still fangirling over celebrities. When I was your age, I barely had time to eat between studies and internships. Why do you suddenly sound exactly like my father? I grumbled. Perhaps, he replied, a faint smile touching his lips. It's because you're remarkably unruly. The Economic Forum was a high-profile event, attracting significant national attention. The opening ceremony culminated with Liam Shao delivering the keynote address. Dressed in a perfectly tailored dark suit, he commanded the stage the moment he stepped up to the podium. Camera flashes erupted like fireworks. He was undeniably striking, handsome, radiating confidence and intelligence, his voice clear and resonant as he spoke. I noticed several women in the audience whispering and exchanging appreciative glances. He truly embodied the image of the successful, charismatic young tycoon. No wonder Chloe was so determined to latch onto him. A few times during his speech, his gaze swept across the audience and briefly met mine. To my utter confusion, I felt my cheeks flush and my heart give an embarrassing little skip. Stella fan, what is wrong with you? Get a grip. You are loyal. You pledged allegiance to Ethan Kai. Stay true to your idol. Frantically, I fumbled for my phone, unlocked it, and stared intently at Ethan's smiling face on the screen, willing myself to calm down. Ethan's charm worked its magic. My heartbeat gradually returned to normal. Satisfied, I locked the screen. When I looked back up at the stage, Liam was concluding his remarks to enthusiastic applause. As he stepped away from the podium, his eyes met mine again just for a second. And my treacherous heart did that stupid little jump again. This was unacceptable. This flustered, heart-thumping version of Stella Fan was completely alien and deeply unsettling. After the forum sessions ended for the day, I found myself wandering into a quiet hotel bar. I wasn't particularly in the mood for drinking, but an inexplicable reluctance kept me from returning to my room, from potentially running into Liam again. I lost track of how many glasses I had. Not many, but enough combined with an empty stomach to make me feel woozy. It was late. My eyes were stinging with tiredness, and a dull ache had started in my stomach. Finally, I slowly made my way back to my room. I hadn't been inside for more than a few minutes when there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" I called out wearily, already halfway to collapsing on the bed. "It's me, Liam." Dragging myself up, clutching my aching stomach, I opened the door. Liam stood there, frowning slightly. "Why are you back so late? Are you all right? You look pale." "Stomach ache," I mumbled, leaning against the doorframe. His frown deepened. "Did you drink?" I nodded guiltily. "A little." "Did you eat dinner this afternoon?" "Wasn't hungry," I admitted sheepishly. "Honestly, Stella," he sighed, stepping past me into the room. He picked up the light jacket I discarded on the sofa and draped it around my shoulders. "You really don't know how to take care of yourself. We're going to the hospital. Can you walk?" I tried to straighten up but doubled over as a sharp pain shot through my abdomen. Liam didn't hesitate. He bent down slightly and scooped me up effortlessly into his arms. I felt too wretched to protest, like a limp, pathetic kitten. Just buried my face against his chest, vaguely aware of the clean scent of his cologne and the steady beat of his heart beneath my ear, and let him carry me. "Acute gastroenteritis," the emergency room doctor announced blandly after a brief examination. "But my stomach is usually ironclad," I protested weakly. "How could I get gastroenteritis?" Change in environment, unfamiliar food, drinking alcohol on an empty stomach. Any or all of those could be contributing factors, the doctor replied matter-of-factly. "Doctor, what's the treatment?" Liam asked calmly. "An 4-drip. She'll feel better after the fluids." "Okay." Liam took the prescription slip from the doctor and went to handle the payment and paperwork. When he returned with a nurse, I was sitting hunched on the edge of the examining table, looking utterly miserable, like a wilted flower. "What's wrong now?" Liam asked gently, noticing my expression. "I don't want an injection," I mumbled, horrified to hear a distinct wobble in my voice. "Afraid of needles?" he asked, a hint of surprise in his tone. I lowered my head, thoroughly ashamed. Liam covered his mouth, trying unsuccessfully to hide a smile. "And here I thought you were so fearless." I shot him a watery glare. His smile vanished instantly, replaced by a look of gentle reassurance. "Hey, it's okay," he murmured, his voice surprisingly soft, almost tender. "Don't be scared. I'm right here. I'll protect you." He gently drew my head against his chest, shielding my eyes with one hand so I couldn't see the needle, while his other hand rested lightly on my back, patting rhythmically. His embrace felt warm, solid, incredibly safe. Even when I felt the sharp prick as the needle slid into the back of my hand, the usual wave of panic didn't come. When the nurse was finished and had taped the 4-line down, Liam gently released me. "See," he said softly, like coaxing a child. "That wasn't so bad, was it? Lie down now, get some sleep. I'll watch the drip." "Aren't you going to sleep?" I asked groggily, already feeling drowsy. "I'm not tired." He leaned down and tucked the thin hospital blanket around me. As he straightened up, he gently brushed his index finger down the bridge of my nose with a feather-light touch. A blush crept up my neck. I bit my lip, feeling suddenly shy but also incredibly sweet. A warm fuzzy feeling spread through my chest. By the time the 2 bags of fluid had finished dripping, it was the dead of night. I was exhausted, barely able to keep my eyes open, too tired to even think about talking. Liam carefully helped me put my jacket back on, fussing with the collar like I was a first grader. ensuring it was straight. His seriousness was almost comical. Despite my weakness, a small laugh escaped me. He seemed to realize how he looked then, and a chuckle rumbled in his chest. He reached out and ruffled my hair gently. "Let's get you back." Noticing how slowly I was walking, he deliberately shortened his strides to match my pace, his broad shoulder protectively close behind me. I glanced up at him. His chin was well above the top of my head. The height difference was actually quite nice. Back at the hotel, Liam escorted me all the way into my room but pointedly left the door ajar. This man was infuriatingly proper. A few minutes later there was a soft knock. A room service attendant entered carrying a tray with a steaming bowl of plain congee and some simple side dishes. I looked at Liam questioningly. "I asked the kitchen to make some porridge," he explained. "You should eat something before you sleep." "Not hungry," I mumbled, already half asleep against the pillows. "Just sleepy." "All right," he sighed softly. "Close your eyes then, sleepyhead. I'll feed you." My brain was foggy, barely processing. I leaned back against the headboard, closed my eyes, and obediently opened my mouth when I felt the spoon approach. Liam was incredibly gentle. He blew on each spoonful carefully before bringing it slowly to my lips. "Too hot," he murmured. I shook my head slightly. "I don't like carrots," I mumbled petulantly after swallowing a spoonful that contained a tiny orange cube. "You're barely conscious and still picky," he chuckled softly. "Just swallow it." "Don't want to," I insisted stubbornly, keeping my mouth shut. Liam sighed again, then coaxed. Okay. Swallow what's in your mouth and I promise no more carrots after this." I mumbled in agreement. After he somehow managed to get most of the porridge into me, I was finally allowed to snuggle down under the covers. I let out a contented little sigh. "My stomach actually feels much better now," I admitted sheepishly. Liam leaned over and tucked the duvet around me again. "You really are like a kid sometimes," he murmured almost to himself, a strange mix of exasperation and fondness in his voice. "What?" I asked drowsily. "Nothing. I plugged your phone into charge. Add me on WeChat," he said, pulling out his own phone. "I'm heading back to my room now. Message me if you need anything." The next morning I woke up feeling completely refreshed, resurrected. Glancing at my phone, I saw Liam's profile picture in my WeChat contacts list and couldn't suppress a silly grin. "Stella. I'm all better. Breakfast together?" "Liam. You're up already? Shouldn't you rest more?" "Stella. Nope. Someone told me professionalism is key. Can't miss work." "Liam, wait for me." In the restaurant, Liam intercepted the glass of milk I was reaching for. "Maybe stick to porridge again today just to be safe," he suggested firmly. Why did that simple, slightly bossy instruction make my insides feel warm and fuzzy? "Hey," I mumbled, stirring my congee awkwardly, avoiding his gaze. "Thanks for yesterday." "It was nothing," he replied easily. "You look much better, though. Seems like you've recovered." He paused, then added, "In that case, I'll be heading back to N City this morning." "So soon?" My head snapped up, a pang of disappointment hitting me unexpectedly. "My flight was actually scheduled for last night," he explained. "But you hadn't returned and I was a bit worried. So I rescheduled." "What if I get sick again after you leave?" The question slipped out before I could stop it, sounding embarrassingly needy. Liam met my gaze, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Then I'll fly back to take care of you." Was he flirting? He had to be flirting. My cheeks flushed, and I quickly looked down at my porridge, suddenly fascinated by the swirling patterns. "However," he continued, his tone becoming serious again, "I'm a very busy man, Stella. So no more running off to bars alone, understand? And finish your work each day and head straight back to the hotel. Message me when you're back safely." "Okay," I agreed meekly. I don't think I'd ever been so obedient in my entire life. If Dad could see me now, his jaw would hit the floor. "So, we'll still see each other back in N City, right?" I asked hesitantly, needing reassurance. "Yes," he confirmed, his smile gentle. "We will." Every day after Liam left M City felt strangely empty. The highlight became finishing work so I could retreat to my hotel room and justify messaging him. Previously, I'd happily spend hours scrolling through photos of Ethan Kai on my phone, lost in my idle fantasies. Now, a heavy guilt settled over me whenever I thought of poor Ethan. Seemed I might actually be falling for someone else. I spent far too much time clutching my phone, waiting for Liam's replies, dissecting every brief message, swinging wildly between giddy hope and anxious uncertainty like a lunatic. He must be busy, that's why he took hours to reply. He's probably in a meeting, hence the short, one-word answer. He didn't ask if I ate properly today. He must have just forgotten, right? My actual best friend, the non-Chloe one, listened to my ramblings over the phone and cackled with delight. Stella fan finally brought to her knees by a man. I never thought I'd see the day. Finally, the day came to return to N City. I messaged Liam early that morning, letting him know my flight details. But hours passed and my phone remained silent. No reply by the time I boarded, nothing when I landed. How could a lack of a simple message cause such a crushing wave of disappointment? Dad had sent Uncle Zhang to pick me up. The thought of returning home to Sylvia's relentless matchmaking campaign filled me with dread. As Uncle Zhang started driving towards my parents' house, I threatened to jump out of the moving car unless he took me back to the university dormitory. He reluctantly complied. Sigh. Suddenly life felt flat. My favorite bubble tea tasted bland, the K-dramas lost their sparkle, and even Ethan Kai seemed less appealing now that news broke about his first on-screen kiss. My idol was no longer pure. The world was collapsing. Lying listlessly on my dorm bed, finally resigning myself to sleep, my phone buzzed. A message from Liam. Liam. Asleep yet? Sorry, was in back-to-back meetings all afternoon, then had dinner with clients. Just saw your message. I shot bolt upright in bed, my heart doing a frantic tap dance. Stella. Not yet. Liam. I was worried you'd get back to N City and immediately start avoiding me. Stella. Avoid you? Why would I do that? Because my reputation is terrible? Because I spent weeks actively trying to seduce you under false pretenses? Because I'm ridiculously embarrassed by everything? How could I possibly say any of that? Stella. Because you're busy. Obviously. I typed quickly, latching onto the easy excuse. Liam. Come down? Come down? Down where? My brain struggled to compute. Stella? I sent back a confused emoji. Liam downstairs. My jaw dropped. No way. Was Liam actually downstairs? Right now? Panic seized me. I scrambled off the bed, flung open my closet, and frantically searched for something. Appropriate? Decent? Not overly provocative? My hands landed on a relatively conservative houndstooth check dress I rarely wore. Smoothing it down, I took a deep breath, practiced a demure smile in the mirror, and walked out, trying to emulate the gait of a well-behaved young lady. From a distance, I saw him leaning against his car, bathed in the soft glow of the dormitory entrance lights. He saw me approaching, dropped the cigarette he'd been smoking, and stubbed it out under his shoe. A slow smile spread across his face as he watched me walk towards him. I suddenly felt incredibly self-conscious, my cheeks burning. As I reached him, he let out a soft chuckle, ducking his head slightly and turning away for a moment, presenting me with the perfect silhouette of his profile against the night sky. His shoulders shook slightly with suppressed laughter. What? I demanded, puzzled and slightly indignant. What's so funny? Liam turned back, still smiling, though he tried to compose his features. It's just, you look very different tonight, Stella. Not quite what I'm used to. It's taking me a moment to adjust. My face flushed an even deeper shade of red. Mortified, I stomped my foot lightly. Well, if you don't like it, why did you even come looking for me? His smile softened instantly, the amusement replaced by something warmer, gentler. I just finished work, he explained, his voice low. Was heading home. But then I remembered you got back today. He paused, his gaze holding mine. I wanted to see you. Oh. My internal monologue erupted into incoherent screaming. Liam Xiao said he wanted to see me. Did that mean, did he feel the same way I did? Did he miss me when we weren't together? Could this actually be mutual attraction? Was something this incredibly wonderful really happening to me? Did I unknowingly save a bus full of puppies in a past life? Taking several deep breaths to calm my racing heart, I managed a semi-casual, slightly coy response. What's so special about seeing me? Liam chuckled again, a soft, warm sound. He reached out and ruffled my hair playfully, his touch sending little electric sparks through me. Just wanted to see you, he repeated, his voice soft and intimate, somehow conveying far more than the simple words themselves. I fell silent, suddenly shy under his warm gaze. All right, he said after a moment, stepping back slightly. It's late. You should get back inside and sleep. Will you come see me again? The question tumbled out before I could stop it. Yes, he replied without hesitation, his eyes crinkling at the corners. If you want me to, I'll come. I have no memory of how I got back to my room. I seemed to float up the stairs, my feet barely touching the ground. It all felt surreal, dreamlike. Wasn't he supposed to be the aloof ice prince? The unapproachable tycoon? The man who never smiled? Yet tonight this unattainable flower had been smiling almost constantly at me. Oh my God. So embarrassing. So wonderful. The very first thing I did the next morning was send a message to Sylvia Fan. Mom, I'll be home this weekend. Make sure you and Dad are both there. I have something important to tell you. I was going to tell my parents that their wayward daughter had finally done something sensible. I'd fallen for a reliable, wonderful man. They could finally stop worrying and cancel all future matchmaking torture sessions. My happy ending was in sight. The entire week passed in a haze of pink, bubbly happiness. Even running into Chloe at the station didn't bother me as much as usual. In fact, I felt a tiny smug thrill knowing I had quietly, unexpectedly captured the attention of her supposed dream man. Heh. Friday evening finally arrived. I practically flew home. Mom had prepared a feast to welcome me back. Throughout dinner, both she and Dad kept asking what my important news was, but I maintained an air of mysterious silence, enjoying their anticipation. Finally, after my third bowl of Mom's delicious fish soup, I cleared my throat dramatically. Mom, Dad, I began seriously. Do you know Liam Xiao? The heir to Lu Corporation. Dad put down his chopsticks and leaned back in his chair. Know him? Of course we know him. Old man Lu and I are practically drinking buddies these days. I frowned, confused. You hang out with his dad? What for? Business connections, catching up, drinking mostly. Dad chuckled. And it's not just me. Your mother plays mahjong with Mrs. Lu almost every week. My brain stuttered. What? Oh. Are our families that close? I asked slowly, a weird feeling starting to creep into my stomach. Sweetheart, don't you remember? Dad asked, looking surprised. When you were tiny, we lived next door to the Lus. There was an older boy, Liam, 3 years older than you. You used to call him Xiao Xiao Gidge, Big Brother Xiao, and follow him around everywhere like a little duckling. She was only 3 when the Lus moved away, dear, Mom interjected. How could she possibly remember that? Well, she was so attached to him back then, I thought maybe some memory lingered. Dad laughed. Anyway, you saw him in M-City, right? When you asked me to book your flight and hotel, old man Lu happened to mention Liam was going too for the forum. So I just asked Liam to handle your arrangements as well. Made things simpler. My blood ran cold. So that's why it was all so coincidental. Sharing a flight, staying in the same hotel, him happening to know my plans. It wasn't fate or coincidence. It was all prearranged by our parents. Liam mentioned you got sick? Mom asked, her voice sharp with concern. That stomach bug? Are you completely better now? Yeah, long gone. I waved dismissively, my mind racing. Both parents visibly relaxed. Dad continued, oblivious to my inner turmoil. Liam's a good kid. Always been mature and reliable even as a boy. I'm glad he was there to look after you in M-City. Your mother and I would have been worried sick otherwise. Look after me? Was that all it was? Was Liam's kindness, his attentiveness in the hospital, just him fulfilling a duty, looking out for his parents' friend's daughter as requested? The warm fuzzy feeling I'd been cherishing turned cold and heavy in my chest. Oh Doyla, oh right, Dad added thoughtfully. A while back, we were having dinner with Liam's parents, and we suggested Liam swing by the university to pick you up and bring you over. He mentioned he had an interview ending near campus around that time. My heart sank further. Was that the night I first saw him? The night I put on my ridiculous flirting act by his car? Why didn't he pick me up then? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. He said he couldn't find you, Dad replied casually. Couldn't get through to your phone either. But he had seen me that night. He must have recognized me then, recognized the birthmark. Why had he pretended not to know me? Was he embarrassed by me? By my behavior? A wave of humiliation and hurt washed over me. So it wasn't mutual attraction. It wasn't a budding romance. It was just me, Stella Fan, being delusional again. Misreading everything. He didn't like me like that. He was just being polite, perhaps slightly amused, indulging the silly little girl his parents asked him to check on. Why? Why did it hurt so much? And that night he came to my dorm. Why say he wanted to see me? Why make it sound so personal, so ambiguous? Why lead me on like that? Back in the privacy of my room, I pulled out my phone and opened WeChat. Stella. You knew all along, didn't you? About our families? Liam, yes. What's wrong? Stella. Why didn't you tell me? Liam. I don't know, it just seemed interesting interacting like this without that history hanging over us. Are you angry? Stella, yes. A little. Why did you come to my dorm the other night? Liam, sometimes I think about that little girl in diapers I used to know and then see you all grown up. It felt strange, almost surreal. Familiar. I just wanted to see you. Familiar? Like seeing a childhood pet grow up? Witnessing a miracle of nature? Is that all I was to him? Stella. Why didn't you say hello the first time you saw me? By your car? Liam. A cough. Well, your entrance wasn't quite what I expected. I figured acknowledging our connection right then might have been awkward. For you. So I had embarrassed him. My pathetic attempt at seduction, performed right in front of my childhood big brother. Mortifying. Stella. I understand. Let's just not see each other anymore. Liam, why? He sent back a long string of question marks. Stella. You said you'd come see me if I wanted you to. Well, starting now I don't want to see you. So let's not meet. Almost immediately my phone started ringing. Liam's name flashed on the screen. Again and again. Annoyed, frustrated, and deeply hurt, I declined the calls and blocked his number. If I felt the same way he apparently did. If I just saw him as a brother figure, maybe I could handle this. Maybe I could laugh it off, be casual, pretend none of it mattered. But it wasn't like that anymore. I developed feelings. Real feelings. And he clearly hadn't. The imbalance was too painful. A soft knock came at my bedroom door. Stella? Are you asleep? Honey, you said you had something important to tell us. Mom's voice called gently. I dragged myself off the bed and opened the door. Mom, I mumbled, feeling tears welling up. I want to try dating. Seriously this time. That's wonderful news, sweetie. Mom beamed. But why do you look so unhappy? Because nobody likes me. I wailed, the tears finally spilling over. Nonsense. Mom pulled me into a hug. My daughter is beautiful and kind and smart. Of course, people like you. Lots of people. Mom, I sobbed against her shoulder. I'm free tomorrow and the day after. Can you arrange another blind date for me? Maybe someone handsome? Please. I promise this time I'll be serious. I'll really try. Mom's eyes lit up with renewed hope and determination. You've finally seen the light. Saturday morning found me sitting in an elegant sunlit cafe, dressed in a powder pink lace dress I normally wouldn't be caught dead in. My actual best friend had advised that pink and lace screamed sweet, approachable marriage material. I had arrived early, nervously sipping water. Stella? A pleasant male voice inquired. I looked up. Standing before me was a young man in a well-fitting suit, with neat hair and a kind, open face. Not devastatingly handsome like Liam, perhaps, but not bland or smarmy either. He looked nice, comfortable. All right, Stella. Deep breaths. You can be nice too. You want it serious? This is serious. Forget unattainable ice princes. Maybe nice is exactly what you need. Mustering my most charming, well-behaved smile, I began to engage in polite conversation. He seemed intelligent and had a good sense of humor, recounting amusing stories about his university days. I found myself actually listening, responding thoughtfully, making an effort. Maybe this wouldn't be so bad after all. Maybe ordinary was okay. Just as I was starting to relax, feeling a glimmer of hope that perhaps a normal, uncomplicated relationship was possible, a cold voice sliced through the cafe's gentle ambience, speaking my name from directly above me. Stella Fan. My head snapped up, startled. My breath caught in my throat. Liam Shao stood there, towering over our table, his face a mask of thunderous fury. His eyes, dark and intense, seemed capable of drilling holes right through me. Damn it. My first thought, even now? The unattainable flower really lives up to the name. Even furious, he's breathtaking. I truly was a hopeless case. And you are? The nice young man across from me asked Liam politely, looking bewildered. Panicked, desperate to salvage this potentially nice encounter, I forced a bright, slightly shaky smile. Oh, this is my brother. Liam, what a surprise. What are you doing here? Liam's handsome brow furrowed even deeper, his voice dropping to a dangerously low growl as he repeated the word, dripping with ice. Brother. I shrank back in my seat, suddenly terrified. Would our flimsy childhood connection be enough to placate him now? Before I could formulate another word, Liam reached down, grabbed my wrist in a grip far stronger than necessary, and hauled me unceremoniously out of my seat. What are you doing? I gasped, completely caught off guard, stumbling after him. He didn't answer, just pulled me forcefully towards the cafe exit, ignoring the startled looks of other patrons and the stunned silence of my abandoned blind date. We stood in front of the elevator, Liam radiating an aura of palpable fury, staring intently at the slowly descending numbers on the display. The silence crackled with tension. Finally, he muttered impatiently, "Stairs." Without another word, he yanked open the heavy door to the fire escape and pulled me through it, letting it slam shut behind us. His strides were long and angry, and I stumbled desperately behind him in my ridiculous heels, my wrist aching from his tight grip. Liam, stop. Let go of me. What is wrong with you? I cried out, trying to wrench my arm free. He finally stopped, halfway down a flight of concrete stairs. He spun around abruptly, backing me against the cold, painted brick wall, effectively trapping me. You called me brother? He demanded again, his voice low and gravelly, vibrating with suppressed emotion. Well, you didn't object before. I retorted defensively, turning my head away, refusing to meet his intense gaze. So petty. Can a brother? He bit out, his voice dangerously close. Do this. Before the last word fully registered, his mouth crashed down onto mine. My eyes flew wide open in shock, my brain short-circuiting. I forgot how to breathe, how to think, how to react. Liam's kiss was nothing like I'd imagined. It wasn't smooth or practiced. It was raw, urgent, almost desperate. Rough and clumsy, yet overwhelmingly passionate. His lips moved against mine with an intensity that stole my breath, bumping my teeth, demanding a response I was too stunned to give. A small, pained whimper escaped my throat. Liam instantly stiffened, pulling back just enough to speak, his voice hoarse. Close your eyes, he commanded raggedly. When I remained frozen, seemingly unable to comply, he reached up with one large hand and gently covered my eyes, plunging me into darkness. Just before the world went black, I thought I saw a deep flush spreading across his own face, an unexpected vulnerability in his expression that contrasted sharply with the ferocity of his kiss. And then he was kissing me again, consuming me. His other hand found my waist, pulling me tightly against him. Helplessly, my own hands came up to clutch at the fabric of his shirt, anchoring myself in the storm. You don't know how? He murmured against my lips, his voice thick with emotion. You don't seem to know how either. I mumbled back indignantly between kisses. A low rumbling laugh vibrated through his chest. When his lips found mine again, the kiss transformed. The frantic urgency softened into a slow, deliberate exploration, tender and careful, yet still profoundly possessive. He tasted of coffee and something uniquely Liam, intoxicating and addictive. After what felt like both an eternity and no time at all, he slowly lifted his head. He removed the hand covering my eyes but kept his fingers lingering on my face, gently tracing the outline of my lips, which felt swollen and sensitive. His eyes, when they met mine, were dark and shimmering with an intensity that made my heart pound. Stella, he said, his voice husky, laced with a raw vulnerability I'd never imagined possible from him. You seduced me first. Why did you push me away? Why did you say you didn't want me anymore? There was a hint of hurt beneath the possessiveness, a fragility that was utterly disarming. You weren't seduced, I whispered, still dazed. Who told you I wasn't? He countered, his thumb brushing softly against my lower lip. Were you? My eyes widened, hope flickering back to life, bright and insistent. From the first moment I saw you again, he admitted, his gaze unwavering. Strutting past my car like you owned the world, my soul was yours for the taking. You're lying, I accused, though my heart soared. You looked completely disdainful. Did you expect me to fall at your feet right then and there? He retorted, a faint blush creeping back into his ears. A man has his pride, you know. Stella fan resurrected once more. Gloriously, triumphantly alive. Forget nice, ordinary men. Forget simple, uncomplicated love. I didn't want it. I wanted this. This complex, infuriating, breathtaking man standing before me, looking at me like I was the only thing that mattered in the world. Slowly, tentatively, my fingers crept upwards, finding the elegant column of his throat, tracing the sharp line of his jaw, finally settling on the intriguing bump of his Adam's apple. I played with it gently, fascinated by the way it moved when he swallowed hard. His throat worked, and when he spoke again, his voice was strained, unsteady. Do you have any idea, he rasped, that some places are off limits for touching? Even here? I asked innocently, tilting my head, continuing my exploration. His Adam's apple really was quite beautifully shaped. I'd always wondered what it felt like. Oh. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, taking a deep breath. Then he leaned down, his lips brushing against my ear, sending shivers down my spine. I've been wondering, he whispered, his voice a low, intimate growl. Were those lipstick marks, the ones on my collarbone, really drawn on? Oh. I quickly retracted my hand, preparing to deflect, maybe feign ignorance. But he caught my wrist, gently but firmly, pulling my hand back towards him, enclosing my fingers within his large, warm palm. Stella, he murmured, his eyes locking with mine, dark and full of promise. Draw them on me again. Properly this time. Please. And